Imre was the Webb School during his time here. He pretty much embodied everything that the school was about.
Mr. Lagler was the most interesting teacher that I had ever met in my life, up to the point when I met him when I was, I think, maybe 12 or 13. And he still is the most interesting teacher that I've ever met.
Imre Lagler, to me, was a man that we all looked up to very much. He was our coach, a teacher, a friend, a father figure, someone who commanded great respect.
Mr. Lagler was a storyteller, and we thought that somehow we had tricked him. Every day we would go into Latin 2 and Latin 3 and have the idea that we would somehow get him off topic. And we always did. Every day we got him talking about communists and Judaism and Islam and Democrats versus Republicans. And we thought that we had, we weren't learning today. We weren't doing Latin. But what he taught you was that life is most important. And it wasn't necessarily that we weren't learning Latin. It was that through his stories he was teaching us about life.
His style was to always be willing to come down to your level. He couldn't help but become close to you.
He was a teacher of life.
He was vivacious and worldly and crazy. He said the most outrageous things in class all the time.
His life that was basically modern European history. And so the kids could get him sidetracked in no time flat. But I'll tell you what, they were learning. Anything Imre had to tell them that was good stuff. And he was teaching them something all the time.
He taught probably more about life than about German or Latin. He was great. He was an easy one to get off of the subject, to talk about the revolution or to talk about politics or the war. But really, the irony is that I think when we did that, he was really getting on the subject.
He really got along with the children, and that was very much a student's kind of teacher.
I used to write down all the things that he would say in class. I have my Latin book is full of just random things that he would say. He was a lover of words, and when he would come across a word that he liked, he would just say it aloud and muse on it for a while. I remember we were reading about some sort of mule that had died in some sort of Latin manuscript, Roman manuscript, and he was trying to explain to us what the word for the old horse was, and it was nag. And he just thought, nag, that is a nice word.
Imre and I are friends. We're colleagues and friends, and that we chaffed at each other all the time. Well, shoot, Imre was the reason I showed up at Webb School. He is a great teacher. But now remember, never let your schooling interfere with your education.
It was Imre who encouraged me right before graduation to take to be part of a trip to Germany and live with a German family, go to school there. And he said, if you have, I'll never forget what he said in class. He said, if you have the chance to do this trip and you don't take advantage of it, he said, in his classic style, he said, I will never respect you.
He just decided that was going to be my nickname for the day, and he called upon me. He said, go ahead, Kinky. I was shocked, floored, but that was Mr. Lagler.
He was intensely competitive. This was back when soccer was not the great sport that it is today in this part of the South.
I think he wanted to win, but I think the camaraderie we had always stood out as a little bit more important.
There's one day he fired the referees in the middle of the match. Fired them both. Said, get out, go away. You do not know what you are doing. Here, take your money, leave. And he and the other coach that refereed the game, they refereed the rest of the match.
I'm glad that I had no contact with him on the sports field. I probably would have cried.
Imre liked to win. and he would drive the players, that he was on them to succeed, give their absolute very best.
He approached life from a coach's perspective. Everything had some sort of, coach-like encouragement.
We always had a lot of fun, and we worked hard, but when you looked around the team, when Imre was talking to us, you could see that everybody in that group loved him.
I remember him telling us a story about falling in love with Mrs. Lagler, and I imagined him as a young man in Hungary, and he told us a story about how he fell asleep at the train station one day and slept overnight on a bench waiting for the train to arrive. And I could picture him in my mind with his curly hair and that one curl that would just bounce, and it wasn't gray anymore. In my mind it was black, and I pictured him waiting for Mrs. Lagler at that train station, and I just thought we were the luckiest students in the world to have this man from Hungary with that whole history and a wonderful story here in Bell Buckle.
We all knew Elizabeth, and we all knew Zsolti and Imre. We just knew their whole family, even in high school. It was not hard to get close to all of them, and they were a great family.
Elizabeth Lagler, that is, she's a saint, because again, she put up with Imre.
I do smile when I think about some of the footsteps I'm following in. And my son has gone to live with a German family, might be majoring in German. Imre just, he opened a lot of doors for us.
Mr. Lagler's love for language and life that has helped encourage me in the field that I am right now. I use a lot of his techniques.
Passionate, that highly opinionated, that fearless.
But he stood out.
Inspiring, cantankerous, worldly, joyous teacher.
A man who truly, enjoyed the children and sought to make them better.
He leaves behind hundreds and hundreds of stories with hundreds and hundreds of people. He's touched every person he's touched the lives of every person that he's ever encountered. I'm certain of it. I don't think that you could meet Imre Lagler without remembering something wonderful about him. He's just one of those people that you just don't forget, and you hope that you could have half of the impact, or even just a quarter of the impact on someone else that he had on you.
It was given to me after 20 years of service at Webb School, and I enjoy it very much, and whenever I sit in it, brings back old memories from Webb School. This is what old Sonny used to tell the students in English. Don't do things on the sly, and had been translated into Latin, and really it represents the entire school, this saying, because it sums up what the honor code is at Webb School. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, and so on. And this is the backbone of Webb School, and has been the backbone, and I hope it remains the backbone for many years to come after I die. I saw a guy sitting on the porch in a rocking chair. I never forget it, because that was my impression of United States anyway.